Sundial. Let's go. Chapter 1. The Shadow Garden. In a quiet basin surrounded by silver cliffs lived a bear named Elias. Elias was a star bear with fur that was deep midnight navy and a scattering of white freckles across his shoulders that looked like distant galaxies. Elias didn't live in a cave or a cabin. He lived in an open-air temple made of tall, smooth basalt pillars that hummed when the moon was full. Elias's job was a mystery to most. He was the tender of the midnight Sundial. In the center of his garden stood a tall, slender needle of obsidian. At night, the moon would cast a long blue shadow across the sand. Elias's task was to make sure that the shadow moved smoothly. If a stray pebble or a clump of moon grass got in the way, the shadow would snag and the night would feel jagged. One night, as the moon reached its peak, Elias noticed a tiny flickering light near the base of the sundial. It was a spark beetle named Lux. Lux, Lux, Lux. Lux was dim, his little shell flickering like a candle in a draft. Elias Lux whispered, the sound like the crinkle of dry silk. I've lost my steady. I'm flickering too fast and I can't find the rhythm of the dark. That is the sundial.